Good day, everybody. This is the Being Abundance podcast. My name is Koen and I'm meeting today my great friend again, Sujith Ravindran, contemporary mystic. Sujith, how nice to meet again through our podcast. How are you?
Very, very much excited. So, hello to you too, Koen, and hello to our listeners. Again, super excited to come together for a very, very fascinating law, a very metaphysical law, the law of exponentiality. But as always, before we start, shall we start with our routine of taking a few moments of recentering?
Well, I could need that because I was actually with my two kids and they invited four friends. So I was actually babysitting six children, but they were having fun themselves. I was just looking and observing them and they were having great fun. So, but I have to say it was a lot of movement. So it's always good to recenter again. So let's do that.
Very, very much. Lovely. So, if you have any electronic devices, anything that you don't need for this conversation, the invitation would be for you to put it on silence and away from your body. And let's find a comfortable position where you can be seated, shoulders relaxed, spine free from your backrest. And gently close your eyes and bring your attention to all the sounds around. Nothing is noise, everything is just sound. Observe. And keep those sounds in your awareness as you gently bring your attention to your body and scan your body. Notice all the sensations across your body. And anywhere you feel ease and lightness, observe. And anywhere you feel any discomforts or aches, observe. And where you notice discomfort, hold your attention on that spot. And join me for 3 deep breaths. And continue to remain present to your body as you gently return back into this chat. And we can continue.
Sujith, thank you. And I have to say, the reminder that everything is sound, nothing is noise, powerful. Great. Thank you. Today in this podcast, we speak about the law of exponentiality. And the underlying thought is receiving is exponential to giving. Could you please explore with
Mm.
us what you mean with this, the sentence that you have written in your bestseller, The Seven Laws of Abundance?
Mm. You know, this is the most, uh, for me, um, one of the most mystical laws, metaphysical laws. You know, receiving is exponential to giving. You know, Kuhn, if you look at what we do in a supermarket, for example, or between friends very often. We'd go to a supermarket and we would just, buy one product, let's say a toothpaste or a shampoo, and we pay €2 or €5. And that is how it's 1 to 1. Or you lend €50 to a friend, and then the friend returns €50 back. Or you gift a bottle of wine to your neighbors, and one day when another occasion arises, your neighbors will gift you a bottle of wine. Now, this is typically how things happen. Sharing happens in the worldly paradigm, in the mundane world.
Mm.
In the metaphysical world, though, there we live in a world. I mean, the metaphysical plane is an infinite plane. There is enough abundance on that plane for every single person to be billionaires or trillionaires.
Mm.
We'll not be able to count that using zeros and ones, using numbers and our limited logical mind. The truth is, the cosmic plane is a plane of infinite abundance. And what it does with both good and bad, what it does is it just multiplies it by 10, by 100, and sends it back to you, or the ripple effect passes it forward. That is what, receiving is exponential to giving means. That you give one and you receive back 10. And that one could be one good thing, an act of kindness, or it could be one bad thing, an act of harm. It'll come back tenfold.
Yeah.
This is, in a summary, the law of exponentiality.
So let's explore it even deeper. You share that there is a metaphysical world, and I know that we all know silence within ourselves. In earlier podcasts, we were talking about the void within, but the
Mm.
metaphysical world is for people, especially here in the West, sometimes difficult to grasp. What do you mean with the
Mm.
metaphysical world?
Oh, I love the journalist in you, Koen. I love that you're kind of bringing it to the basics, and let's simplify this understanding of the mystical world, the spiritual world, the metaphysical world. Many terms. Um, Let me start with this. Now, the material world, the physical world we live in, is a three-dimensional world, or we can even call it a four-dimensional world. The three dimensions of space and the one dimension of time. So, we can say we live in the spatial world, or we could say that we live in a space-time world. That is the paradigm of space and time. Beyond the paradigm of space and time, there's a world that we cannot make sense of using the five senses we have. Yet, this is not a very distant concept, Kuhn. Wait a minute, I cannot embrace that world with my five senses. So, wait a minute, it's abstract, it is distant, it is theoretical. No, you know, we experience the metaphysical reality, the spiritual reality every day, every day. And
Oh,
I would just ask you to make a guess. You know, a time when you access this metaphysical plane.
well,
Give me a guess.
very simple. Actually, now talking with you, at that moment, I'm not experiencing time because I'm totally here with you. Space is, yeah, it is present in the sense that I am in space, but I mean, I'm actually so much here and now that I could be anywhere, you know. So it is not an issue. So at the moment
Oh,
that time and space are not an issue, you could say that you are actually entering the realm of spirit. And in the same
exactly.
sense, I mean, if you love someone deeply, or you observe like your children, and you're not actually having their mental noise, but just the sounds of the kids, then actually you're also in spirit. So yeah, I understand what you say, but
Wow.
I would love to hear your way of looking at it.
Very, very much. I mean, you put it like a master. You
Mm.
put it like a master, Kuhn. You know, this metaphysical plane is the realm of timelessness and spacelessness. And each one of us, we experience, we access that realm a number of times every day. I'm absolutely certain of that. You probably a lot more than most other people that I know. This realm of timelessness and spacelessness, like, say, for example, you're reading a great book, Harry Potter, or the seven mystical laws of abundance. Just kidding. Um, you know, and you look at your watch. Oh my goodness, time just flew by.
Yeah,
Or you're on the beach with your daughters and you're going crazy playing together. You completely forget your environment. You don't care what other people think. You don't care the sun or the wind. You are so immersed in the playing, you become spaceless. Or you're madly in love, early love, that first love, whatever it is. You can't keep your hands off each other. It doesn't matter where you are. You're basically just loving each other, etc. You're again um, becoming spaceless, beyond space and
mm,
time.
yeah,
That experience, that is a moment where you are in the metaphysical plane. And the same thing, in my case, I know when I'm writing, I transcend the four dimensions of the space-time dimension. When I walk through nature here behind in the woods, you know, absolute oneness, expansiveness, transcendence that happens.
yeah,
Some people, when they are playing music or creating music or painting or photography, etc., they completely transcend time and space. That is the experience of timelessness and spacelessness. That is the mystical plane.
yeah,
And this is all adults. This is
mm,
all adults. But this is the last thought I want to share. Kids are much more frequently in the in the paradigm, in the realm beyond space and time.
mm,
We are born that way. We
mm,
are born that way. I have read of studies having been done of little kids, with electrodes, and checking the EEG, electroencephalograph patterns of little kids. And they notice little kids are pretty much, I mean, newborn babies and tiny toddlers are most often in the timeless, spaceless paradigm than in the space and time paradigm. So they're most often in the spiritual plane than in the worldly plane. It's just that as we continue growing up through our karma, through all our life experiences, every event in life, we undertake a conditioning that happens. We get conditioned like layers of the onion. One layer of conditioning grows, another layer of conditioning grows, another layer of conditioning grows. And 40 years, 50 years later, here we are. We become so conditioned that every wakeful moment, pretty much every wakeful moment, we are just in the space-time paradigm and not in the spiritual plane.
Mm. I remember because we go way back. We know each other already for 9 years. That at the moment I had in myself like a doubt, like, what do I have to do in this life? Where can I find my, as they
Mm,
say in the Indian tradition, my swadharma, my life path? What
mm,
is it? Which path do I have to walk to experience spirit more? And actually
mm,
operate from that realm. And then you gave this quite interesting example that as a child, remember back that when I was playing and I did my hobby as a child, that I could be so caught up in the hobby that my mother shouted "Koen, dinner," and I didn't hear her because I was so much doing that what I love. And
yeah.
I remember that you invited me to write down 3 of those occasions, and then
Mm,
for me, it was writing poetry, actually talking with people, like interviewing people, asking questions, and
mm,
going into nature. That was the third.
uh,
And then I connected them, and I realized, like, oh wow, yeah, actually, I am on the right path. I am a journalist, and actually, I'm very blessed that the life gave me already all the tools to explore my own spirit. So there was very profound yeah, like a practice. And I would actually encourage our listeners, if you want to know, like, I want to reclaim and reconnect with my spirit, write down those 3 times that you remember that you was caught up and forget about time, and you forgot
yeah,
about space. That was amazing.
yeah.
So what was that for you actually when you was a child, that you lost track of space and time?
Um, Very much. For me at the time, reading was exactly this experience. And I see that now with my little son, who's 6 years old, nearly 6 years old now.
Mm,
This guy, you know, he's not deliberately ignoring his mom or I when we call out to him or we ask him to do something. No, he is completely in that plane. He's like, got a book. He's so absorbed in it, it can happen.
yeah,
Um, I used to remember that about myself. You know, um, reading was it.
yeah.
Somebody could burst a firecracker under my chair, and I would still not hear it. And uh, another one was, these mystical stories. Listening to mystical stories as a kid, I was in awe. I would be kind of like, just so absorbed. It what it does is engages every one of our intelligences, my intelligence. I completely transcend the paradigm of space and time.
Yeah,
All my thoughts completely implode, and I fully enter that realm of non-thought. Listening to stories, mystical stories, um, very big.
yeah.
And of course, playing, like every kid, you can just play for hours and hours and hours and forget it.
True, but
um,
I asked it because you shared that when we give from the metaphysical realm, and I think that the listeners now understand what we mean with that. That if we give from that realm, then it's exponential. It's not like, I give one cookie, but if I give from that place of spirit, it might happen that I get a cake back, or
yeah.
something that we not even expect. So is
Yeah.
that because we give from a pure heart, or like like a kid is giving something? What is there, the mechanic or the reason?
It's a mechanism of transcendence, Kuhn.
mm,
So, imagine we are in our wakeful world, in the physical paradigm,
mhm,
and we are operating in this limited framework of space and time.
mm,
Their giving and receiving are transactional. Now, the moment we take ourselves to a heightened stage, we become more heart centered. We are now operating from a place of awareness, or our act of giving is supported with awareness, or from a place of kindness, or a true experience of generosity, or spirit of service, or genuine emotion of love. These are all heightened states of consciousness.
mm.
And what happens is, the more we elevate our consciousness, the more we are syncing with the universe, with the cosmos. So
Mm.
we are self attuning ourselves to become one with that cosmic field. And suddenly, it's not us giving, it is the God within us, the divinity within us giving.
Yeah, the universe, you could
So,
say. You could say.
yes, yes, very much.
Mm,
So, anytime we operate there, it is exponential. The receiving is exponential, and the good news here is, you know, just simply transcending. When we transcend beyond our physical plane, in those realms of transcendence, call it kidfulness, the inner Koen, the little Koen, you transcend into those levels. There is, you cannot give in those heightened levels of reality. You can only give good things.
yeah.
There isn't any harm that you can give to others, like hurt or pain or resentment, or you cannot trigger any of that in that state. You're only an engine of goodness.
Yeah, but I recognize it. But I see in my own life that I can merge with spirit in such a sense that indeed I lose track of time and space. But another spiritual teacher once said, beautiful how you merge with life, but also stay awake, stay also mindful of that. Hey, you have to do the dishes, you have to set the appointment. I mean, I hear already some people saying, I cannot walk around like a kid all day. I also have my bills to pay and all that. What can we do by, in one hand, be pure of
Oh,
heart, lose
yeah.
track of time and space, but on the other hand, also pay your bills and make appointments and all that.
Beautiful. What a great question, Kuhn. I mean, you're unpacking, you know, how we can manifest exponentiality in our worldly life.
Exactly.
And
Yeah.
I love the way you are unpacking that inquiry.
Mm,
Now, indeed, most of us, many of us, I hope more of us, we operate from the space time paradigm.
mhm,
It's a very transactional plane. We are in the beta state. And from that place, we are very frequently, most frequently, we are driven by the impulse of self preservation. It is the consciousness of self preservation that drives us in that wakeful state. So it is the urge, the reflex, the instinct to keep our soul and body together. Now, that is most people operating from that place. And every day, particularly in Western Europe, I see more and more people awakening from their wakeful state towards, the subtler realms of consciousness. Now, what could we do in step one from there? So, one idea, we can continue, of course, the way we are continuing, life being a laborious journey of earning and spending good, or Our next step would be to bring mindfulness into our daily doingness. Bring a little beingness into the doing, mindfulness. That means, like you talked about the dishes, I know already, since I know you for so many years, you love doing dishes.
I
Well, I
yeah.
think you probably truly love these days, maybe.
Well, it's a
You
daily
do.
practice actually to see like that it can be fun to do it. Yeah, true.
You know, my invitation would be, if I
Mhm.
may,
Yeah.
you know, the next time you're doing the dishes, make it a spiritual practice. What does that mean? You know, create the conditions for you to subtract all the, your awareness being somewhere in the past or in the future. You absorbed in your thoughts about, wait a minute, I have to finish these dishes and then I have to go and then I have to do the editing of some interview. Instead, subtract any attachment your thoughts have to either the past or the future. And there's a framework for this. A very simple way of looking at where your thoughts travel. So if you on a horizontal axis, you put past on one end and future on another end on a horizontal axis. And then on the vertical axis, you put craving in one top end and aversion in the bottom end. You have four quadrants. And this is the field, the playground in which the monkey mind runs all the time when we are not aware. If you look at it, sometime you're in the past absorbed with this beautiful encounter you had this morning when you went to have a cup of coffee and somebody said, oh, I totally love your bed, Koen. And then you're like, ah, wow, what a good day. That is a memory, a thought of from the past, a craving thought. Or it could be a thought of aversion, like you are driving in the traffic and somebody just cut across and braked in front of you, or did or said something nasty, and that thought is cooking, continuing to cook inside. It is just continuing in your awareness. Your mind goes back to that bitter encounter. That is in the past, aversion. Similarly, in the future, you might be thinking about, like, oh my goodness, next Saturday, next week is a holiday in Netherlands, and Saturday, I'm looking forward to take my family and drive all the way to Italia to Como. That is kind of a future thought. And that is a thought of craving. You're desiring that moment. I'm going on a vacation. Or your mind is stuck like oh, next Monday, I have an appointment with my boss and my manager is not happy with me.
Mm.
He already has been very severe, very unpleasant. And now I have to have a meeting with him. That stresses me out. All your thoughts are in one of these four quadrants. That is where it continues to run around the monkey mind. At the very origin, the center, where both the lines meet, is that space of non thought. If you're washing your dish and you catch yourself in a thought, wait a minute, I don't like my washing my dishes, I shouldn't be doing this, or some other thought, whatever it is, dismiss it. Bring your attention to the act of whatever it is you're doing. It is just the doer, the act of doing, and the object of doing. It's only this:
Mm.
the object of doing, the doer, and the act of doing. Just become one. Merge all of that. Do it with mindfulness. And of course, your mind, your thoughts will come in and again distract you, and again gently bring your mindfulness back. Bring it back to the act. The more and more you continue coming to that point of origin, the more you start noticing you being naturally mindful. And then you will notice whether it is the act of washing a dish, or an act of taking the garbage out, or cleaning out the garden, or the act of driving or doing your groceries in the supermarket, whatever it is, suddenly becomes a spiritual practice. You will start noticing, enjoying all of that. So just as a simple, there's another step, there is a more advanced step too, but for a simple first step, my invitation as a summary is, whatever act it is that you're doing in the mundane reality, the object of doing, the act of doing, and the doer, make it one. Just bring all your awareness to that act. You continue practicing like that, and very soon, in a week, couple of weeks, you will start noticing that, you know what, I'm actually enjoying this act.
Now, beautiful. I will make it a practice, and yeah, I will do it while putting the dishes in the dishwashing machine. But anyway, there is always a way to practice.
That's a great starting point.
Um, so let us return, because it all is very much connected, but let us return more to the core of our conversation, in the sense of, we're speaking about the law of exponentiality. One of the things you shared before is, in a conscious universe, receiving is exponential to giving. Um, and are there also, because you shared a practice, are there also practices that we can create to have this exponentiality in our lives?
Very, very much. Very,
Mm,
very much. Um, remember why it's important for us to practice first.
mm,
That, as I mentioned before, one, the universe is a field of infinite abundance. So the more we synchronize ourselves with this cosmic field, that field of infinite abundance, the more that abundance flows towards us. So the simple act of self-attunement is an extremely important practice to attract that abundance. The typical capitalistic narrative of abundance creation is, Koen, oh, these days you're working 35 hours a week. You know what? You want more abundance? Start working 50 hours a week
mm,
or 60 hours a week. This is the narrative that we have grown up with. You sweat more and you gain more,
mm,
or you labor more and then you gain more.
mm.
So abundance is a function of effort. This is what many of us have grown up believing.
Yeah, but you say
If
there is another way, right? That is not
Oh,
necessarily the way.
absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. And that other way is constantly self-attune yourself with the cosmos. Synchronize your individual mind with the cosmic mind.
Yeah.
The separate, limited self that you are, uh, expanded and expanded until it becomes one with the universe. So that is a big why
Hmm.
of attracting abundance.
Yeah.
And one practice, there's something coming up for you that you want to share, right?
Yeah, well, you shared before about the monkey mind, and that is actually trapped in this realm of future and past, and aversion or craving. But I realized that indeed, when I sport or jog or something, I lose that monkey mind and I'm actually there completely. And at that moment, I can see the trees when I'm walking. I can see actually more chances that around me, and also some
Hmm.
some ideas pop up naturally that were suppressed by this monkey mind that happens the whole day. And then by running, then something can come up. So abundance is happening at the moment you're aligned with the universe, because you're actually seeing it. You're actually more aware of it. What you're actually
Yes.
sharing makes a lot of sense, because at the moment you are more aligned with the universe is there for you, and you are there for the universe as well. It's actually aligned at that
Oh, yeah.
moment. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Mm,
Absolutely. And what is happening? The phenomenon that you just shared, when you're jogging and this happens, these profound illuminations come up, that is your intuitive intelligence functioning,
mm,
you know, instead of your cognitive intelligence.
yeah, exactly.
Typically at the level of the mind or the limited human mind, what we mean by mind with a capital, sorry, a small m,
Yeah.
you know, we are mostly activating and using our cognitive intelligence. But when you transcend beyond the worldly plane to more and more to those subtler realms, your intuitive intelligence and your spiritual intelligence
Hmm.
start to express.
Yeah. And
That is where
mhm,
these profound ahas are there.
mm,
You know
true.
the eureka of Archimedes and all of that. So I fully encourage what you shared to multiply that. If going jogging is what is helping you accessing the intuitive intelligence, the intuitive mind, then go for it. Spend time jogging.
Mm,
I would go even further, and this is step two of working towards the law of exponentiality, the attunement with the universe. This might sound so counterintuitive to our conditioned mind, but never mind. We are not here to be nice to our listeners, right? Um, you know, fully embody that little coon inside, the transcended self, and just be there. I know those who have told us that we are living in a worldly plane, and we have to work, earn a living, we have bills to pay, there are chores to take care of, etc. um, Radical is a completely metaphysical approach to abundance, and completely non-local approach to abundance is to transcend and stay in that transcendence, continue to operate from that place of transcendence, um, in the clouds. And the more you are the transcended self, the more abundance in a very non-local fashion will come to you. And again, the next week, when we come together, we are going to explore the fifth law of abundance, which is the law of non-locality. So I'm not going to, at this moment, demystify what I mean by the word non-local. We'll keep it as a surprise for next week. But very much, I'm a big proponent of you going jogging and accessing and staying in that jogging coon state, not just while you're jogging, but all the time.
wow, that's a great invitation. Thank you. But when I read your book, The Seven Laws of Abundance, you also make it very practical for people. Maybe not all the people like jogging. So what are the practices that we can do, all of us, to create exponentiality in our own lives?
Mm. You mean the question of beyond mindfulness and beyond these different activities where time and space disappears, what are other practices,
Exactly. Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
um, one simple one simple activity, one simple practice is to, um, again, like I said with the washing dishes, treat all your actions as sacred. So that means, bring mysticism into the mundane, whatever it is.
What do
Here
you mean with that?
we are seated together. Yeah, beautify, bring love and beauty into your activities.
Okay.
Whatever the activity is, like, you are washing some dishes. Good. You know what? Bring your candle, put on your incense, have your favorite music. Some people, they like to pour a glass of wine. I know people, dads who have a routine where they wash dishes with their kids every evening. So one kid and dad each evening. A dear friend of mine does that. They wash dishes each evening with one of the kids. And that is a bonding time for him with his child, that particular child, that evening.
Mm.
Just listening to the kids' day, kids' observations, hopes, dreams, fears, pain, all of that.
Mm.
You know, Similarly, you put a little bit of attention and you're a highly, highly evolved person. So if you would take any aspect of your life and just ask yourself, how do I treat this action as sacred? Like, it could be something mundane, like um, going grocery shopping, or driving to work. How do I bring sacredness into this? That is a very simple inquiry. You would find different ways to do that, like, bring out the full meaning of that activity so that you can transcend it. Like, you're driving to work and you don't like that long drive, whatever it is. you know Start carpooling, for example, with somebody that you love to spend time with, if that is something that you love. Or, get your collection of your audio books or your favorite music. Or, get a guided meditation CD
Mhm.
that you can play in the car without your eyes closed, please, but with your eyes open.
Yeah.
You know, um, Turn the mundane actions into sacred, bring sacredness into the mundane. Any activity that you have, that you're
Mm.
doing every day, whatever feels routine or mundane, brainstorm, find ways to bring sacredness into the mundane. That's one practice.
I also I think I
More?
understand why, because that is a question, and I would like to also ask you why, but let me guess. Because what you're doing actually, you're breaking up certain patterns that you are doing with your monkey mind still active, and at the moment you beautify it, at the moment you actually give it space, and like you say, you can put a candle or whatever, then you break that pattern that you always was running, and at that moment you are opening up, actually you're opening up to the universe, and at that moment exponentiality can happen, right? If I understand you right.
Very much.
Yeah.
That's a beautiful way of you personalizing this wisdom. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Um, Another great habit related to the law of exponentiality is, just the act of doing goodness.
Mm.
You know, just pepper your life with acts of goodness every day. It has got, and that is the beauty of acts of kindness or acts of goodness. The ripple effect of that that ripple effect propagates in every direction. So, of course, an act of goodness from your end is a contagion. It'll trigger acts of goodness by those around you. So there's a ripple effect in that dimension, the people dimension. But also, what you notice is the vibration of goodness just stays with you before and after the act of goodness. It just stays with you. You just do that one act of genuine act of goodness, and you have departed that scene. But that vibe, that energy of that goodness just stays with you. It that is the nature of this is pure physics. This is how vibrations stay. You know, I have here, you know, this gong. See, it's still there. There's still that beauty of that music, that sound there. Still there. That is what doing goodness does to
But
your own being.
yeah,
And if you make your daily life a string of acts of goodness, you start noticing the your default vibration consciousness starts altering.
yeah. I completely understand what you're saying, but just maybe I'm asking it a bit teasing. But what is good and what is bad? I think I know, but I would love to hear your definition.
Wow. you know, um, that is such a subject. The answer to that question is so subjective.
Hmm.
What might seem like an act of goodness for you may not seem like an act of goodness for me.
Yeah, but there must be like a certain kind of expression that we all can understand what you mean with goodness. Like for
Hmm.
instance, if I can give it a try, everything that is
Yeah.
life affirming, everything that is actually eh, um, supporting life. Is that a
Hmm.
could that be a definition that you think like, yeah, that is in the direction of what I consider as goodness?
I like that thought, life affirming, yet an act of goodness can even be more beyond that.
Mm,
In the sense, you know, life affirming, I quite like that word. Yet, let's look at that. You might, an act of goodness as a dad could be you disciplining your daughter. You know, it's the father energy, the masculine parent energy that creates the framework, the borders of social conduct for kids. Doesn't matter whether it comes from a female body or a male body. I'm not referring to the anatomy or the body here. I'm referring to the awareness or the consciousness of the father, the mature masculine is the one that sets that. And sometimes setting that boundaries or the codes of social conduct may not be, it would be life affirming, but won't be exactly a pleasant, a joyful act. It can be one where you are strict, you are firm, and it is an action that may not be received by your daughter with all happiness, like,
yeah,
wow, dad, you're being strict with me. No,
yeah,
she will object. Her ego will push back. She will not be happy, but it's life affirming. You see, it is life affirming.
yeah, I understand.
Yeah, if you would take that act even to the next level. So, there's a beautiful term in Sanskrit, anubhavo drishti, anubhavo sreshti, means an act that will help somebody see well, So, see life better, brings greater clarity to life, illumination, and also feel well. So, see well, this is a rough translation. See well, feel well. You could, so it's not just opening that person's eyes, but that whole act of holding space for that person to open her eyes is also coupled to feeling well. In the act of opening that eyes, she's also like, wow, I feel so good, I feel so happy. That, in a more absolute sense, is an act of goodness. So it is life affirming, but also, it is a joyful, pleasant act. Is this making any sense?
Yes, 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 for sure. And I think also that indeed what you're sharing, like goodness, it's also about context. I mean, uh, for instance, there are people that say eating meat is something that you should not do, but there are some certain moments that you can say, like, yeah, if you are super hungry and you're about to die, maybe at that moment better to eat meat to survive, so
Yeah.
or if someone made it with a lot of love, and that is something I learned from you. If someone made something with love, then that is high, then you should actually think by yourself, if she made it with love and I'm a vegetarian, I'm not attached to the dogma of vegetarianism. I actually will eat it because love is always prevailing the dogma of being attached to be, I'm a vegetarian. So I understand what you share. Goodness is also very much related to what is the context. Um,
Yeah.
Now, exponentiality. And to wrap it a bit up, because I'm looking at the time, we're already
Yeah.
almost there in an hour talking. Exponentiality. If we talk about giving, if we give
Mm.
from a pure heart, we know that the universe will answer by giving back in a multiple way, right?
Yes.
Wow, what a great universe.
What a generous universe, extremely generous universe. And very much, but also the universe is a very accurate bookkeeper.
Mm,
So it's generous and very accurate, in the sense there's great level of objectivity when it comes to the universe measuring
mm,
the reward.
mm,
um, you give something to someone. Let's say you have extended an act of kindness to Rod, and thanks to your act of kindness, the way you have thrown open his heart, or awakened his spirit, what is bound to happen? He will, from that elevated place, he's going to go out and he's going to do an act of goodness or an act of kindness to somebody, maybe 3 people, 4 people, 5 people. And those 5 people, they, because they are in an elevated state, feeling so good about life, they will also act with that kindness. You know, the universe keeps track of all those ripple effects. So it's not that your act of kindness to Rod is, you've done this act of kindness, so your reward will be basically proportional to that one act. No, it is because you triggered an act of kindness, it started a ripple effect where a number of people started to practice the art of kindness. You will receive all those rewards back.
yeah. And the
So
thing
it's
is, yeah. No,
good.
I just want to say, there you need a little bit of faith, because we can try to uh, grasp this with our rational mind, but it's also a thing of practice. Just try it out and you will see, because I know, by also living closely to you, in the sense of that we are being friends for so many years, that I've seen that actually happening in my relation with you, that you are sharing from your pure heart, and people give a lot to you also back. with helping you setting up the Being Abundance movement, for instance. And by the way,
Yeah.
that is something that I'm also part of, because what we're talking about is not only personal, it's also something that we try to set in the world as a movement, the Being Abundance movement. And that is actually my last question. Um, this movement, is it
Hmm.
also established to function with exponentiality?
120% yes.
All right.
Very much, and you are such an incredible example of that.
Thank you.
Such an incredible example of that exponentiality in the movement. I know you, and I look at all those other people who are so deeply drawn to the movement. What do you notice? The kind of magic. So, the movement, this space of the movement is giving you something. It's giving you a space. It is giving you a form of encouragement or an acknowledgement, or a space to practice your gifts. And what you are doing, when I look at your life, you're going out there and you are being such a great ambassador of humanity. Is And I'm not saying that it's happening because the movement is giving to you. No, there are many such contributors to you in your life. I look at all the people who are involved in the movement, the little that we can give, it's just a little that we can give to all the people who are being drawn to the Being Abundance movement. But that little act of giving, what it's doing is it is multiplying profoundly within these people, and they go out and they do things which are 100 times the 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 richness, the power of what we give to them.
Yeah. And for the people who
So
don't know the Being Abundance movement, what we're actually doing, we have actually souls like you and me that gather, and we celebrate every week things that we are doing that are actually abundant, you could say. And abundance is not necessarily contained to the realm of money. It could be also being abundant because you self-realized in a certain part of your life, or fully. That would be completely beautiful. But uh, by the way, we are in the essence, we are all already enlightened and self-realized, but we just forget that sometimes. But on the other hand, what I just want to share is what is the Being Abundance movement? Just a last question for the people that don't know it yet. Can you just share it in a few sentences?
I can. The usual narrative that I like to say is, when we look at the kind of normality we used to live in before the lockdown, for me, normal was not even the word to associate with the kind of life that most of us we were living before the lockdown. For some of us, the lockdown has made things bad. For some of us, things better. But before the lockdown, if I look at how many people around me were living, they had completely neglected their self-care and self-realization. I look at a community level, the amount of disconnect and neglect people had to community living before the lockdown. I look at the economic inequity that has been growing and growing and growing. There's been a race to the bottom for many of the middle class people. I look at the political landscape in the east or the west, north or the south, the polarization that has just been growing and growing, or the apathy or the power grab. If you look at the ecology, lastly, we were consuming 1.7 Earths every
Hmm?
day, but we only have one Earth. And this was the old normal. And if you look at what created that kind of a normal, what you realize is that normal is triggered by our collective consciousness of scarcity. Every one of the, if you look at the economic inequity or the political apathy or polarization, the ecological devastation, all triggered by our scarcity consciousness. And the abundance movement is directly 100% focused on helping shift that consciousness from one of scarcity to one of abundance, so that post COVID, and beyond, the kind of world that we can imagine, a world where we are more balanced in the self, where we are more equitable towards humanity, where we are kinder to the ecology. That new reality, if we are to create that new reality, first, we must shift from a scarcity consciousness collectively to an abundance consciousness. If we don't do that, forget a reality that is, balanced to the self, equitable towards humanity, and kinder to ecology. That is the purpose of the Being Abundance movement, to offer all the resources that we can, including our time, technology, financial support, wisdom, whatever it is, to accelerate the abundance consciousness. So that is kind of really to close. I see that we are at the end of the hour. Really, the stated aspiration of the Being Abundance movement. And probably the best place, the easiest place for our friends, our listeners to connect with the movement is maybe, facebook.com/beingabundance.org. The website beingabundance.org is going to come online in a couple of weeks, but facebook.com/beingabundance.org.
Yeah. Wow. Beautiful. And if you're a soul and you hear Sujit speak and you feel called to be actually part of the movement, you're very welcome. Thank you, Sujit. And it's also a great way to actually practice exponentiality, the law of exponentiality. That if we give from a pure heart, we can trust that the universe will answer in great ways. Thank you so much for your time and space, Sujit. And let's celebrate that we're alive, that we can breathe, and yeah, it was great. Thank you
Beautiful.
for having me.
Thank you. Thank you, Koen, for again sharing the space. And thank you, Koen, for being who you are. Have a great evening there. Bye
Thank
bye.
you so much. Bye.